What's going on, everyone? It's Ben from YGO from Zero, back with another retro Yu-Gi-Oh video, and this is going to probably be one of my worst videos that I've shown off yet, because I'm featuring Stein decks, and the deck that I'm playing with Cyber-Stein is pretty bad. Now, this is for Warrior format specifically, so it's not to the level where Stein will get in later formats like Reaper and beyond, where this card becomes a big menace. In this format, Stein isn't really the best thing in the world. You can play it in Reasoning Gate decks, you can play it in more Jar Turbo decks, but I feel like it doesn't really raise the ceiling of those decks all too much. And it can just be a brick in a worst case scenario. And those decks can sort of just win the game on their own without Stein. So I figured I'd try and throw it into a deck that's sort of based around turboing Stein out and pulling off its combo. Now, in this format, the main combo you do with Stein to win the game is you use Cyber-Stein to bring out Master of Odds, which is a 4,200 attack point fusion monster, which is the highest attack on a fusion monster available at this point. And you basically equip it with something like Megamorph to buff that thing up to 8,400. Now, you could also equip it with things like Fairy Meteor Crush or Big Bang Shot to ensure that you're able to win through Scapegoat, which is a popular card in this format. However, I chose not to go that route, figuring that like you've already put together like a 3 or 4 card combo if you're able to pull that off. So adding another brick to the mix is already not really the best. We're doing this in a Monarch package as well, or maybe not necessarily a Monarch package, but a Tribute Monster package. So basically the idea is that we're trying to bring out a Zaborg or a Jinzo here in addition to Last Will to bring out the Scientist. Zaborg will be able to pop a monster on your opponent's side of the field, clear the way. Jinzo will be able to shut off their traps. So either one that you bring out is going to be pretty decent here. And we're just trying to bring out Cyber-Stein and hit our opponent in the face with a lot of damage. Now, in practice, this is not really the best. And again, you probably are better off using Stein in a deck like a Jar Turbo deck or a Reason Gate Turbo deck because, you might actually pull off the win con with it there. But again, I feel like this is just sort of watering down those decks. So I didn't want to go that direction. But going through the card by card here, you got Cyber-Stein itself, you got an Exiled Force to pop your opponent's stuff, you got a Fiber Jar to reset the deck. This can be good if you don't draw a combo early. You can just sort of, set Fiber Jar and start over again, try and draw it. It can also be really bad because if you do drop down below 5,000, then the sign package is going to be really bad for you, but you do have ways around that in the deck as well. We've also got triple Gravekeeper's Spy to bring out tribute monsters, or not tribute monsters, but tribute fodder for your tribute monsters, and, you really do want to have that fodder on field because we are playing 4 tribute monsters. We're not playing many monsters, and a lot of them are tributes, so this deck can break a bit, but to help with that, we've got Morphing Jar here as well to sort of get into more of our stuff. We've also got a card destruction here to dig deeper into our deck. We got Change of Heart to pair with our Tribute Monsters. We get Creature Swap to pair with our Scapegoats. It can be really good to give your opponent a goat token or just give them a spent Cyber-Stein after using its effect. We've also got double Emergency Provisions. This can be used with Mirage from Nightmare, but it can also be used to buff up your Cyber-Stein a bit more, or not your Cyber-Stein a bit more, but your life points a bit more to be able to use Cyber-Stein. So that's a good card to keep in mind as well. We've got triple Giant Tornado here to send back our opponent's stuff, along with a Heavy Storm. All of this is to sort of, clear the way for our attacks and our plays. We got triple Last Will here to try and bring out the Stein. This card can be used with a Tribute Monster or with an Exiled Force. And we got triple Megamorph to buff up our Master of Odds. We got a Mirage Nightmare as well to draw deeper into our deck. And it can pair with the double Emerging Provisions and 1 Mystical Space Typhoon. And we got double Knock as well to clear away our opponent's set monsters. We got Painful Choice to try and set up our combo. Painful's a little bit awkward in this deck, as oftentimes you don't really have a good 5 to send. Like, for instance, we're playing 4 Tribute Monsters. We're playing 3 Last Will. Like, if you want to actually get something that actually, contributes to your combo, there aren't really many good sets of 5 to send. I almost cut this from the deck entirely because of that, but I do think it's a good enough combo enabler that it is good to have here. We've also got Pot of Greed, Premature Burial here, and triple Scapegoat as well. Scapegoat can be good to stall off your opponent a bit. Also, again, with the Creature Swap, you can pair very nicely with that. We got Sword of Revealing Light here as well. With only 1 MST and 1 Heavy Storm in the format, I think this could be good, just giving you some time to draw into your combo a bit more. We've got a Call the Haunted here to bring back any of our monsters, and we got a Ring of Destruction as well to pop a card on the field and deal a bit of damage. Unfortunately, you can't quite use this. Like, you can't go sign into Master of Oz and then attack in for like 4,200 and then use Ring to finish them off, because you will also lose in that scenario. So it will cause a draw. which is better than a loss, but it's still kind of unfortunate. For the side deck, we've got just a bunch of different options here. This is honestly things that I was like debating putting in the main deck, but I just cut for one reason or another. We got triple Mobius, the Frost Monarch here to clear away our opponent's back row. So if our opponent is on a bit more of a back row heavy deck, we can bring this in instead of like Zaborg or maybe a Jinzo. We've got triple Cold Wave as well. If you know you're going first, this can be good to bring in. Basically, the idea is you Cold Wave so that way your opponent can't deal with things like Gravekeeper's Spy or set any back row. So then if you do have a Stein play next turn, you can make that play basically unimpeded. So it can be good to bring in if you know you're going first, although it's kind of awkward because this deck already bricks enough, and this is kind of another brick if you don't already have the combo online. We've got a Comfy and a Forceful again if you're going first. This can be good to bring in. We've got a Snatch Deal here to take our opponent's monsters, and Upstart Goblin to draw deeper into our deck. This is kind of awkward as it does put our opponent at 9,000, but with Megamorph and Master of Oz and Stein and presumably a Monarch on field, you should have enough damage to push through that. Ceasefire as well to deal a little bit of extra damage to your opponent to maybe do that last bit, as well as if they're on a flip focus strategy, this can be good to bring in. We got triple Royal Decree to shut down their traps and a Torrential Tribute to wipe their board. For the fusion deck, this can potentially come up, but the main thing you're going into is Master of Oz here. But we do have things like Dark Bolter, we've got Darkblade the Dragon Knight, we got Fiend Skull Dragon, Ojama King, we got Moki King as just a weak fusion monster that we can give our opponent off of a creature swap. We got Reaper on the Nightmare, Ryu Senshi, Super Robo and Super Robo Yard didn't really come up, but it could potentially. If you do want to go for a more limiter removal aspect of the deck, then you could potentially bring one of these in. I don't actually think it would buff its attack up above Master of Oz, but you might want to check that. We got a Last Warrior from Another Planet as well to just shut down the game if we can't quite go for the combo, but we just want to give our opponent enough time. And we've got Thousand Trick for a similar reason. But that's going to do it for the deck breakdown. Again, I don't really think this deck is the best in Warrior format, which is, February 2005. I don't really think it has access to the Cyber Fusion monsters, which is really what makes the deck quite broken with Cyber Twin Dragon, Cyber End Dragon. But we're still trying out here. We're trying to make this thing work, and let's just see how it does. Okay, we got our first game against Ratos, a frequent guest on the channel. Always a pleasure to have them on. We are going to win the rock, paper, scissors, so we're going to go into the game. We will go first, and hopefully we can set up something good. This is not the best, but not the worst. We do have Megamorph. We got Whale. We got Spy as well to give us sort of fodder for our tribute monsters. So actually, this isn't really that bad. We're going to just set the Spy, set the Megamorph, and pass back to our opponent. If they've got MST, then that would hit the Megamorph anyways, so I don't really mind setting it there. Our opponent is going to bring out a Donzaluk, a bit scary, especially when they've got a knock, so that knock will banish the Gravekeeper Spies out of our deck. And now our opponent will be able to attack in for 14, rip a card out of our hand, and they're going to rip a Will. So that's kind of unfortunate. We do have the Fiber Jar in hand to reset everything, though, so hopefully that will be able to help us out here. We would have drawn Zaborg, so actually we had the combo online if that didn't happen. But, that is a very big if, We're going to set a card destruction instead of Nobleman, pass back to our opponent, because we don't want to lose them to Zalug if they clear this set. Although if they do clear the set, maybe we wouldn't really mind losing the Zalug. I don't know. Or the Zaborg, that is. But they've got Exiled, so that's going to get over our Fiber Jar. They're going to attack in for 14, rip the Zaborg out of our hand, pass back to us. We draw Mirage. That's something at least. We could activate that here, but I kind of don't want to drop down below 5,000, so I'm just going to go for card destruction. We also don't have a way to out the Mirage in hand, so might as well just go for this. Also, if we do draw a way to out the Mirage, that can get ripped out of hand by Zalug, which would basically blank us a draw. So we don't want to risk that, so we're just going to set Will and pass back to our opponent here. They are just going to attack him with Zalug. They're not playing into TT. They're just attacking in, not milling. Bring out a Kaiku as well, so that way we can't banish, because I believe, no, we don't have a Light and Dark, but we could potentially set one up later. We got Call, though, so that will be able to bring back a Zaborg, but they've got Dust for the call, so yeah, that won't be going through. They're going to attack in for 3,200 here. And this is going to be pretty rough for us. We need a really good draw off the top because we got 600 life points. Nothing really engrave. What do we get? We get Goat. Okay, Scapegoat isn't nothing. We're going to set that pass back to our opponent. They're going to try attacking in, but we've got the Goats. They've got the Solemn for that, though, and that will be the end of the game. So kind of rough stuff. We had a pretty decent starting hand, about as decent as the deck can produce, but unfortunately it was not enough because people are playing main deck Knock. Knock is very good against a lot of decks in Warrior format. So, yeah, it is something you got to keep in mind. We do sort of set up by setting cards. So, Ooh, this hand is not the best. We're going to set a True Nade, pass back to our opponent. I guess we get to set a Megamorph instead. They've got the Luke again, so that's going to attack in. And that is going to hit our Exiled Force. Oh, we needed that. Oh, that is rough. They're going to pass back to us by setting one. Okay, we draw a Spy, so we can set that, set a Megamorph, pass back to our opponent. We do want to keep one. They bring out Exiled again, though. Rip that Spy away from us. And they're going to attack in with another Zalug, ripping away the Zaborg. Yeah, this is really rough. We draw another Zaborg. They go, they can't Dust Shoot here. That was a misclick on their part, I guess. But yeah, they can't Dust Shoot there because we had 3 cards in hand, not 4. Our opponent's going to attack in for 14. They will rip out a Megamorph from hand. They're going to set one, pass back to us. We draw Scapegoat, so that'll protect us a little bit here. We're going to set the Scapegoat. They've got MST for the Scapegoat. Maybe I should have just activated Scapegoat as opposed to holding it. I don't know. But either way, I'm going to take another 14 here. They're going to rip out another Zaborg. We draw a Will, which is not really going to do anything here. We're going to set the Will, pass back to our opponent. They're going to attack in for 14, rip away our Jinzo now. And it's not looking good for us. They're going to set one, pass back to us. We draw True Nade. And yeah, we're just going to True Nade, but there's nothing we can do here. This is just the end of the game because, yeah, this doesn't really do anything. So we could, yeah, we can't even Megamorph their Zalug to have it because it will actually increase the attack because we're lower than our opponent. So rough stuff. Not really sure what we could have done differently. Maybe activating the Scapegoat instead of not activating it could have done something. I mean, they didn't really have the best way to deal with that, so we would have had a couple more turns of drawing, but we were already below 5,000 at that point, so our win con's kind of shut off. And yeah, I don't think that we were going to be winning this game anytime soon. So it's kind of unfortunate. We lost against Warriors, the namesake deck of the format. It's not even really the best deck in the format, in my opinion, or even the deck that has the best matchup against Stein. So that's already kind of a bad sign for the viability of this deck. But I did play another game with the deck against a bit more of a jank option. So let's see how that game goes now. Okay, we got another game against Ratos here. We're going to dive in. We do win the rock, paper, scissors again, so we are going to be going first. So always nice when that happens. We draw, this hand's pretty good, honestly. We also draw card D, so if things get worse, then we can go for that. But our opponent's just going to set one pass, so it looks like we're just playing the set pass game. We're going to go for True Nade here, because, you know, I might want a card destruction and set some things up, but it looks like our opponent's got goats, so even if we were going to go for a play here, now we are not. We're going to set this ring, pass back to our opponent. They're going to have to set one, pass back to us. We draw MST, so we're just going to set that, pass back to them. It looks like neither of us are really drawing what we need here to do things. We're just going to pass back to our opponent here. They're going to set one, pass back to us. We draw a creature swap. We're going to discard this Jinzo, pass back to them. Now we've got Jinzo engraved to bring back off pre-mat here. So that's kind of nice. They're going to discard a Jinzo of their own. Okay. We're going to think about this, and we actually do potentially have a lethal line here. So I go for pre-mat first on the Jinzo because we do need to recycle the pre-mat in order to get our lethal line online. That does go through, so now we can go for True Nade here, get back that pre-mat. And now we should be good to go. Now, I actually do mess up this lethal line. I started good by, you know, going for the Zaborg over the Jinzo with the last will to get out the Stein. Then I can go for Stein to bring out a Master of Odds here. But I actually do mess it up beyond this point because I go for Change of Heart, and then I switch that token to attack. I then creature swap it back. Now, what I should do here is I should premature burial the Jinzo. And then I will actually have lethal damage because I attack Stein over the token here, but I've got 24 plus 24, that's 48, then plus 42, and that's lethal damage. However, I'm thinking about the ring and trying to pull off something with the ring, and I'm like, Jinzo will shut off the ring, so I don't want to do that. So I go for the card D just to try and draw into some more things here to try and win the game from that, but I do not. And at this point, I realized the lethal line I missed, and it's very unfortunate. Now, the nice thing is that, like, worst case scenario, if our opponent does have something here, then we can use ring to cause a draw. So that's something at least. But yeah, it's just kind of unfortunate that I missed the lethal line here. They're going to go for MST, and we are just going to play it safe. We're going to ring our Oz, and that's just in case they had something to kill us here. And it looks like they, did they have something to kill us? They couldn't kill us here. So, you know, we could have potentially lasted one more turn, but realistically, they could have killed us, yeah, because they set them off. Then they go for meta our Master of Oz, and then attack over the Stein. So yeah, they could have killed us here. So I am very glad that I went for ring, but I am unfortunately upset that I missed the lethal line there. But this is basically like starting a new match all over again. So, you know, we're diving in again. You know, basically, we're just starting a new match almost. So you get to see more of the deck in action, at least. That's a nice spin on it. we're going to set the Fiber Jar, set a creature swap here, pass back to our opponent. They are going to go for change of heart on the Fiber Jar. Will they flip it up? They're going to go for heavy just to see what we're on there. And so now they get information. They know that we're on creature swap, although they knew that from the previous game as well. So they're going to shuffle everything back in here. They could potentially get aggressive with whatever monster they might have in hand. But this is a pretty good open from us. They're going to go for pot, though, which is kind of unfortunate. Then they're going to set 2 pass. We draw pre-mat, which is kind of, well, it can be a combo line later. But they're going to flip up a Moth here, grab back that pot. And now they can go for pot to draw 2 more. It's not looking good for us here. They're going to set 2, set 3, pass back to us. And maybe we got something going here. We're going to go for Trunade. They're going to book down the Magician of Faith. That's fine by us. We don't necessarily care if they get back a spell from grave because we have potentially lethal here. We're going to flip up this Gravekeeper Spy, bring in another Spy, go for Last Will here, tribute over one of the Spies for Zaborg. We pop the new set because we don't know what it is, and it could be something like Fiber Jar, which could end our day here. But as is, we should have a lethal line here. We go for Cyber-Stein, bring out a Master of Oz, equip the Megamorph to the Master of Oz, and that will be the end of the game because we just attack for the set with Stein, and then attack him with Oz, and that should do it. So very, very good showing for the deck in that game there. So if you look at the first 2 games we played, we actually did manage to assemble lethal both times, even though I threw it in the first game there. But so that is potentially something that the deck can do. Like, the deck isn't terrible. It can pull off its win con occasionally. However, you got to be able to consistently do that to actually be a good deck. And unfortunately, I don't think the deck can consistently do that. We're also facing a deck that basically did nothing for the first however many turns of the first game. So keep in mind that, like, if that deck had been something that could punish us a bit more, then we would have been in a tough spot here. But they're going to go for a Thestalos, pitch a Zaborg. We'll take 5 for that, but at least we get our Zaborg in grave. So now we can potentially bring that back and do some shenanigans. So we are going to draw Last Will here. And actually, this could potentially... We're at... Oh, it's so close. We're at 5,100. So actually, if we activate Pre-Mat here, we will be below 5,000. So we won't be able to pull off our Stein shenanigans, unfortunately. We're going to go for Trunade first. I think I could have potentially saved the Trunade, gone for Pre-Mat instead, and then gone for Trunade, but I was really worried about MST, and if they did have MST for the Pre-Mat, then we would have just lost the game at this point. As is, we've got a bit of a chance here. We can go for the Last Will there to bring out Jinzo. We're going to bring out an Exiled as well, whoops, and then we're going to attack into their tokens, and then we're going to use Exiled to pop their Thestalos. So at least we're in a somewhat stable position here. It's kind of awkward having creature swap when there are 2 goat tokens there. But it is what it is. Our opponent's going to go for Metamorphosis, taking control of our Jinzo with the Thousand Eyes. So we drop down 2,400 more. They'll pass back to us. We draw Swords, so that's something. We're going to go for Swords, pass back to them. And they're going to go for Heavy. That will clear these Swords and the Jinzo, then tribute over the Jinzo, or the Thousand Eyes for a Thestalos. So that will actually be the end of the game there. So we're going first. We could potentially bring in stuff like Cold Wave and things like that. That'll stop them from setting up Scapegoat and stuff, but I wasn't really sure what I'd take out for that. As it is a little bit bricky. So, yeah, this hand is not good. So we wouldn't even be using Cold Wave there. Anyways, we're just going to set this call, pass back to them. They draw 2. They're going to go for Forceful and take away our Change of Heart. So that way we can't Change of Heart their monster and then Zaborg over it. They're just going to set 3, pass back to us. We draw a Gravekeeper Spy. We could set that, but instead we're going to go for this Exiled here because they do know about the Exiled, so we might as well use it up now. Also, if it was Magician of Faith, then they could get back Pot, which we don't want there, and it was indeed Magician of Faith. So now we're going to set a Trunade, pass back to our opponent. They're going to go for Apprentice Magician, attack in for 400, just poke like that, and then they'll pass back to us. We draw Last Will here, so actually this is a pretty decent play. We're instead just going to set this Spy, but I think what we could have done here, we could have gone Will, call the Haunted back, the Exiled Force, tribute off the Exiled Force to pop the Apprentice, bring out Cyber-Stein. But it's kind of awkward because we got the Trunade here that we couldn't really use before committing the Cyber-Stein to board. That being said, like, we could go for Trunade after the Cyber-Stein was out on field, but before we would use the effect. So if they do have something to clear the Cyber-Stein, then it's gone, right? But, you know, at least if they don't, then we can potentially go for a major line here. And then we could also go for, it would have been awkward because I was going to say we could go for Zaborg over the Stein, but we don't really have anything to capitalize off that with. So we couldn't really do that part, but we could get in a lot of damage here. So I think I should have maybe done that, but I figure like, okay, I can just set the spy, and then next turn I can basically guarantee a lethal line with the Trinade there. Opponent's going to bring out a Zaborg of their own, though, and hit over the spy, which is quite unfortunate. They're going to attack in for 24, and then main 2, set 1, pass back to us. We draw a will, so that's another will. We're going to activate this will, go for call, target exiled, and that is going to be fine with them. We're going to think a bit, and we are just going to go for another will here, and then go for Trunade, because this will also satisfy what we want to do, right? We Trunade everything back, and then we tribute over the exiled to pop the Zaborg. We bring out Stein and something else, and then we should be pretty good. So they're going to go for Goat and Book here, which is quite unfortunate. But we still will get our Call the Haunted online, so that's something. It just turned off our creature swap a bit here, which is kind of rough, because we would have liked that for later, I guess. But yeah, we're going to go for Zaborg, pop their Zaborg, and then bring out a Spy and another Spy. I guess what I could have done here is brought out Stein and Oz, and then just creature swapped our opponent the Stein. That could have been something. Then we wouldn't have really been in the worst spot. We could have also had Graveyard Spy in defense, and it was less likely that they'd be able to kill us through that. But if they go like meta into Thousand Eyes, then we die. So at least this way we don't die to meta into Thousand Eyes. And we also get to clear 3 of their tokens here. Also set up our call. So yeah, I think that this was a safer play, but maybe not the correct play. But it remains to be seen. Our opponent's going to go for Snatch Steal on the Zaborg. So yeah, I mean, I am glad that I did this, because there were a lot of things that could have just killed us if we went for the more aggressive play there. But as is, we're going to take 12, so we'll drop below the Stein range. They're going to go for blowback here, try and pop our set there, and they will manage to hit a tails, a heads, and a heads. That is quite unfortunate for us. We really wanted that Call the Haunted there. We could have potentially gone for some more damage. We could have done some other stuff, but as is, we do not get that call, so that is kind of rough there. We do draw Forceful, so that's something. We'll be able to attack over their token with the Spy, go for creature swap here. They've got a Scapegoat for that, though, so that will give us a token here, and that is quite unfortunate, because now they take our Spy. We'll just force that last card away, but we are in a really, really tough spot here. They're going to go for blowback on the token, and they hit heads, and they hit, okay, tails. We're still living a bit. We're still living a bit. They hit heads again, so yeah, we lose the token as well. They attack in for 3,500. And they are going to just pass back to us. And we draw Trunade, which will not be useful here. So that will be the end of the game. So I think that there wasn't really a way for us to do things too differently here. I mean, again, we could have gone for the more aggressive play with the call earlier. But I don't think that would have won us the game there. And we still would have been in a bad spot. I don't know. It's a bit tricky. Stein is definitely a tricky deck to play in a format like this, where you can't just win on the spot, where you need to actually say, is it worth taking the risk, like going for this big damage push if I can't win this turn? Also, the fact that in Warrior format, people are playing Scapegoat left and right means that this deck has a much harder time of pulling off what it wants to do than it does in other formats. So I don't really think that this is the best deck in the world. I also don't think that this is really the best way to build Stein. You know, as I mentioned, it probably works better in using a turbo deck or a jar turbo deck. But again, I do also think that in those decks, it just drags down the level of the deck a bit. It drags down to the ceiling that the deck can do, or at least it doesn't necessarily increase the ceiling of the deck. You can do other things with it, like you can bring out Master of Oz in Reason Gate Turbo. That's kind of hype, but like, you know, realistically, that deck can just win on its own without doing that sort of shenanigan. So I don't really like Stein in this format. But I think that, you know, it's definitely something you can tinker with if you want to do it. It just is nice to know that, like, you know, this format feels very similar to early Reaper, and it's nice to know that Stein OTK won't be the sort of dominant meta threat in the future, unless someone really manages to crack the build that makes this deck broken, but I don't really think that they'll be able to do that. But I hope that you enjoyed the video as always. If you do enjoy this sort of content, please do subscribe to the channel. I release videos like this quite frequently, and we'll be going into the GX era relatively soon. So that's very exciting for the channel. So if you want to see the formats going forward, definitely subscribe. Also, you know, if you want to play games in Warrior format or any of the other formats that I feature on the channel, then definitely head on over to the YGO from Zero Discord server. Links in the description of the video down below. Also, you know, if you want to support me directly, I do have a Patreon. And if you support me directly on Patreon, you will get shout out in these videos. So big shout outs to GMYFS, Brent Knocker, Porkchop Coon, Rinswin, and our new patron, Dump Truck. So your support really helps me in making these videos. So I really appreciate it. Also, let me know what you think of the deck down in the comments below. That also helps these videos out quite a bit. And I look forward to talking with you as always. And until next time, I've been Ben from YGR from Zero, and I'm signing off.